What's up, everybody? I am your host, the Devil, and I am here to do the devil's work. And that is my co-host, Jordan B. Driftwood, who can still smell your wife's pussy stink on his gun.
Well, goddamn.
This episode is already fucked. It's not getting...
Is it chicken fuck?
It's not getting...
I'm not saying this episode's gonna fuck a chicken. But if it was gonna fuck a chicken,
it's getting suppressed and demonetized.
you just cut that chicken's head off.
Anyway, welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we are covering Rob Dusty Boy Zombie's hit follow-up to House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects from 2005. So, a lot of people favored this film over the other two. So, my question for you is, Devil's Rejects or House of a Thousand Corpses?
House of a Thousand Corpses, but two very, very different movies.
I agree, but I'm House of a Thousand Corpses too.
House of a Thousand Corpses had a very psychedelic, he threw out realism and went with straight horror. And it had that real psychedelic, bright colors. Like, the color palette on that movie is amazing. I thought that, like, Otis in that movie is peak Otis. Like, I love him in this movie too. And they made him a little more real. But the way he acts, like when he fucking cuts the girl's dad up and wears her fucking face, and
he's got his whole chest on. Dude.
Yeah, it's definitely it's my favorite of the two, or of the three. But it reminds me the way this movie was done, because this one gets a lot more like Grindhouse.
It's very 70s horror action.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
very
Grindhouse.
much.
Yeah,
I personally feel a lot more Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Last House on the Left, Grindhouse feel. Although he said that was a huge inspiration for the first, I get that watching this one more. And it almost reminds me of Ty West's X trilogy or Pearl trilogy or Maxine, whatever trilogy you want to call that.
Yeah.
How he did each movie in a different style.
Yeah.
And it worked, although it was the same story. That's what this feels like. Like, it feels like a completely different movie, but it works as a sequel.
Yeah. For me, The House of a Thousand Corpses is more of a horror movie. It is a kind of straight-laced horror film. It's got a creepy fucking house, a creepy family, and it almost leans more towards Texas Chainsaw 2, in my opinion, with this movie leaning more towards the original Texas Chainsaw. But they are very different. They have very different styles. I love the style of this movie. But at the same time, when I think about me being stuck in that house with that family from A Thousand Corpses, that's fucking scary to me. I think about running into Otis, Baby, and Captain Spaulding out in the daylight is nowhere near as terrifying to me as being in that fucking house.
Yeah, like I said, with the realism, it's in the House of a Thousand Corpses, like the whole catacombs under the house is fucking terrifying.
Agree.
Like, you have these people Dr. Satan has been working on that are just like comatose, God knows what's been done to them. And you have the professor, which we found out in that episode is actually Tiny's dad. But he's the red guy in the gas mask, super creepy. Even scarier than Dr. Satan for me.
Yeah, he's huge, man. Like,
yeah, like the whole catacombs under the house. He kind of had to throw that out the window for this because he wanted to make this a lot more of a realistic movie. But when I watched House of a Thousand Corpses, that house feels like it's in the middle of the woods somewhere. And then you see this, and you see that you're in the hot,
desert, yeah,
like super sticky, sweaty desert whereas the other one's like a rainy, stormy night. That is the difference of the two movies. It's literally night and day.
Yeah, I actually meant to go back and watch it. So the Dr. Satan is or was supposed to be in this film. It is a deleted scene. It was removed, but it was filmed. And I meant to go back and fucking watch it. But basically, why Zombie decided to remove it from the film is he said that it just didn't look like Dr. Satan. He looked weird in the daylight. Like he was so much scarier in the dark, in the tunnel, and the red lighting and all that. And then he said, because I guess the scene takes place in a hospital and he kills I can't remember the actress's name. It's a famous actress, but she is in it for this scene as a nurse and he kills her. And Zombie basically said like him in like regular lighting in a hospital setting, it just didn't fit. So it was removed, but it is on the DVD or like the Blu-ray or whatever as a deleted scene. I forgot to go back and watch it. Shit.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that. I'll definitely have to check that out. I did get the 25th anniversary steelbook edition of this movie, and it had some really cool art cards, which I don't really care for with releases that much, unless it's like behind the scenes stuff. But it was really interesting. They did the art cards like a comic book style of different scenes. So
That's kind of different.
yeah, I liked it. It was different. It was cool. The whole steelbook is like the comic book style. But one really cool thing was on the back of the art cards was pieces of the script that Rob Zombie wrote.
That's
And
super cool. Yeah.
yeah, and there was notes that he had wrote in and like drawings that he had put for certain scenes. And it was some really cool stuff on there.
Yeah, if anybody is listening knows the answer to this question, please let us know. What the fuck are we supposed to do with art cards? Like every time you go to buy like the kind of better version of a release, like a 4K, one of the main like selling points is always like 7 art cards. And then you get them and you look at them and it's just pictures from the fucking movie, like the scenes that we see in the movie. And it's like, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah,
Like, why
rarely.
is this a benefit for me to pay for? Like, what that is a little what you're talking about is a little cooler because pieces of the script, that's awesome. Comic book style, it's different. But when you get shit that's 9 times out of 10, they're just pictures from the film, what am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah, there's not a lot of movies that I enjoy art cards from. I have gotten a couple sets that had some, like, behind the scenes pictures that I thought were cool, like, put that on an art card. Yeah, I'm down with seeing some behind the scenes stuff, but most of the time, it's not even, like, the cooler parts of the movie.
No.
Like, there's maybe you could get, like, 6 really awesome shots of, like, Hellraiser or Hellraiser 2. There's actually that Arrow box set I was showing you, the Scarlet box set.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's some really cool looking ones that come with that, but I'm all for it if we're not paying extra money for it, but if they're, like, putting it and charging extra money for this, it's not that cool of a benefit. Like, there's so many other cool things, like, Arrow puts together these books, Umbrella does it a lot too, Second Sight will do it with their limited editions. Yeah, do that. I'll pay for an extra book with some behind the
Yeah.
scenes stuff and put your pictures in that.
Yeah, I don't remember what release it was, but there was I don't know, like a year and a half ago, I got a release, and there was of course, art cards in there, and there was about half of them that were the different movie posters from other countries for that movie, and I'm like, okay, that's a little cool,
Yeah.
to get the alternate movie posters, but the other half of them I think were just shots from the movie, but with that being said, are you ready to take a road trip into hell as we deep dive into the Devil's Rejects?
I am ready.
All right, let's do it.
Hello, boys and ghouls. If you want to stay up to date on what's going on with the show, talk about or submit your movie requests, or just say die, then I got good news for you. You can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facecrook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instascam at GrindhouseSyndicate.Horror.Pod, and many gore, which you can always find links for in the show notes as always. And you know what I always say, the morgue, the merrier. So please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. Now, back to the show, kiddies. Frights, camera, action.
And if you really love us and want us to stop fucking chickens, give us a review. Do you think they really want to stop fucking chickens? I feel like most people would support that. As long
Yeah.
as it's safe sex. All right, so The Devil's Rejects is a 2005 American black comedy horror film written, produced, and directed by Rob Zombie. It is the second film in the Firefly film trilogy, that's a mouthful, serving as a sequel to the 2003 film House of a Thousand Corpses and followed by Three from Hell from 2019. It stars Sid Haig, Bill Moseley, and Sherry Moon Zombie. It was produced by Lionsgate, Firm Films, and Devil's Reject, Inc. It was released on July 22nd of 2005, had a budget of $7 million and a box office of just $20.9 million. Not a very big box office. So, while working on House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie had begun thinking about a vague idea when it come to a sequel, where the brother of the sheriff Mama Firefly kills comes back for revenge. Once House of a Thousand Corpses finally released and Lionsgate made back all their money on the first day of the release, they asked Zombie about making a follow-up, which was great because he already had this idea. The only problem was he wanted to make his next film more horrific and the characters less cartoonish than in Corpses. And if you know anything about the making of the first movie, you would know how difficult he found working with a big studio like Universal was. With this in mind, he began thinking about a more serious tone, landing somewhere between a violent Western and an old-school road movie, taking inspiration from Bonnie and Clyde from 1967, The Wild Bunch from 1969, Badlands from 1973, and of course, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. So I 100% think he hit the mark when it comes to these late 60s, mid 70s type films.
I agree. I'm almost surprised Last House on the Left wasn't in there too.
I can
I
see
get a
that.
lot of that.
Yes.
At least the original, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. This movie, and it also has a scene, not quite as bad as Last House on the Left, but there is a scene that is, difficult for some folks to watch. That scene is actually not in the theatrical cut, though, as something that they completely cut out of that version. But if you watch the, director's cut or unrated cut or whatever, it's in there.
Well, you remember they're kind of on the run.
They're on the run, too, yeah.
Yeah, and that it's a very similar feel.
Yeah, I agree. So once his pitch for The Devil's Rejects was greenlit by Lionsgate, he reached out to Phil Parmet to shoot the film because of his work on a documentary called Harlan County, USA from 1976. This was because the handheld camera / documentary look from that film was exactly the style he was going for this time around, which resulted in the film being mostly shot on handheld Anton XTR Super 16mm film with Zest Super Speed lenses, which is a very common camera setup for documentaries. So that's kind of part of what gives this movie its look, and I think that was really smart. So another really important detail here is when Rob did House of a Thousand Corpses, he originally had a $7 million budget. But if you remember our episode about that movie, you would know that he asked for more money for reshoots and like other stuff, expanding that budget to around 14 million. Well, Lionsgate, being a much smaller company, wasn't down for that. So he ended up with another $7 million budget, but this time there would be no additions, meaning that he had half the budget of the original to make a bigger, better movie, which, of course, is extremely difficult.
Well, he said that it didn't feel as if it was half the budget because they were a lot more efficient. And I think that comes down to The House of a Thousand Corpses just being his first movie.
Yeah, there was a thing too that they did this time around that saved them when it come to money, which I'm about to talk about here in a second. So, considering the budget was pretty small, he had very little time to film and not much cash to spend, which led him to set up production at the historic Sable Movie Ranch. Now, Sable Ranch is this 400-acre ranch located in Santa Clarita, California, and has been used for decades to film movies, music videos, and TV shows. And one of the biggest reasons for its success is because it falls under the Movie Ranch Overlay Zone, which offers many benefits to filmmakers like unlimited parking, helicopter pads, and streamlined filming permits. It is also about 30 miles from Hollywood, meaning you can film outside and not have your sound all fucked up by like cars and helicopters and shit. This place it was legendary for filming a lot of westerns. They've filmed a lot of stuff there, which I'm about to go over, but essentially one of the biggest things is like the parking. It's 400 acres. You have unlimited parking. When you do your stuff on location or you're on a back lot, you can only like when you're on location, you gotta a lot of times like you gotta pay for a whole permit just to park everything. On the back lot, you only have like so much room, so you can only bring so much stuff in, which kind of spreads out the production more over like days. This place, you could fucking park as much as you wanted. It had place for helicopters, so you could get overhead shots. But the biggest thing was like these streamlined permits. And I'm sure that all of this together was a huge relief financially for Rob Zombie.
It's crazy to think that overhead shots, man, they had to bring in helicopters. Like,
Yeah.
you imagine how much it saves them money nowadays that they can just send a drone
A
in?
joke. Oh, yeah. That's that. And
We talked about that even on the Evil Dead episode, that they were able to get like a drone operator for the
beginning.
remake slash, retelling or reimagining, whatever you want to call the Evil Dead. Yeah, that was done partially with the drone, whereas the original movie, like, they had to build this super long track going through the house and through the woods, and yeah, man,
Yep.
drones have just probably saved them movie makers fucking millions of dollars.
So, some of the movies and TV shows that have been shot there are Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Supernatural, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Lords of Salem, Motel Hell, the History Channel show Mail Call, and recent mega hit Oppenheimer. And as a matter of fact, while they were shooting The Devil's Rejects, Chris Angel filmed his Buried Alive episode of Mind Freak, where Rob Zombie was in the crowd during his illusion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine those two characters in the same room. You think
Yeah.
Chris Angel could get Rob Zombie's smell to disappear?
Yeah. Dude, God, Chris Angel, man. Mind freak.
I'm gonna turn these dreads into combed hair.
I was gonna make a really fucked up joke. I was gonna say, can you turn his wife into a better actress? But
That would be a really good joke on any other movie except these movies, because this is like the only character that she really, really plays. outside of Halloween, she
Halloween,
played
yep.
Trashy Mom really good.
Yep, I agree. So, unfortunately, Sable Ranch was burned down in a 2016 wildfire, but has since been somewhat rebuilt and went up for sale in 2024 for $35 million. Now, because the first movie was filmed on the Universal backlot, they did not have access to the same house this time around, which explains why it looks so different compared to the one in Corpses, forcing them to use one of the farmhouse sets already built on Sable Ranch for the Firefly compound. But because this place already has so many sets built, it allowed Rob to shoot most of the movie here, saving them a lot of time and money, which is very important when you only have 30 days to shoot a movie and a small budget.
Yeah.
So thank God for Sable Ranch.
I just can't get over the Chris Angel thing, man.
My freak.
That dude was such a fucking just.
No, he
Turd.
still is. I'm sure he still is.
Well, I actually watched him on an episode of Steve-O's podcast, and he seems a lot more like chill and not as much of a fucking loser.
Doesn't he have like an
emo loser
obsession with David Blaine or something? Like not
No.
liking him or
Well,
something?
they talked about that on the podcast, and he mentioned that he was a big fan of David Blaine when they first met, and he had actually gifted David Blaine this like really expensive watch. I think it was.
No,
It
you
was like
told
a
me that it was a
Rolex,
ring. I thought it was a
ring.
ring.
Yeah, and David Blaine like immediately was like gave it to one of his assistants or something somewhere along those lines, like, and he was like, well, I gave that to you because you were an idol of mine, and I took a lot of inspiration from you, and, I gave it to you because I wanted you to have it. You don't turn around and just give a gift that somebody gives you away, and he took great offense to that, and that was kind of the beginning of their beef that they had going for a while.
The
I guess
Tupac and
David
Biggie of the magic world.
Yeah, I guess David Blaine was kind of probably thought his whole, like, gimmick was goofy and probably
Okay, yeah.
didn't like the stardom that he was getting. I could see if you're, like, this guy in the magic world and this new guy is coming up and he's young and he's getting these TV shows and stuff. But I guess since then, they have talked. There's not, like, a beef going on. But my whole point was he seemed a lot more, like, down to earth, kind of almost making fun of himself
Not
back
so
then.
cringy is what
Yeah,
you're saying?
yeah, a
Okay.
lot less cringy. God, he was terrible.
Mind freak. So filming took place during the month of May in 2004, lasting 30 days in the hot California sun that was beaming down on them, which is unfortunate because most of the movie takes place during the day. It's just bad timing. Originally, Zombie wanted to use practical effects that were only available in the 1970s, but because of major time and budget constraints, most of the practical effects had to be cut, leading them to rely on post-production CGI. Because of this, around 100 digital effect shots appear in the film, mostly to create gore. The scenes involving objects coming into direct contact with skin, like throat slitting, people getting shot in the head or neck, and stabbings, were created digitally. The violence that didn't involve direct skin contact, like people getting shot in areas covered by clothing, were achieved practically. So that is my biggest gripe with this movie is all the CGI like shooting and stabbing, and so I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
Well, I will say, and I'm a massive hater of any type of CGI unless it's to make a practical effect better. I think that they did a good job at making the CGI downplayed. Like, it's not so over the top that it's, like, cringy. They use it in I guess, a very small amount at a time, So none of it is like, "Holy shit, that was awful."
Well, I am a little more forgiving with it because I understand why they did it, why they had to do it, but it doesn't change the fact that I don't like it.
With that said, I hate, and it's one of my biggest problems is the lack of gore and effects in this movie, and I guess that's why. Guess
I
they just didn't have the ability to do it practically, so they left a lot of stuff out, I would imagine.
Yeah, they couldn't afford it a practical effect to go wrong and them having to reset and shoot because they only have 30 days and they're renting this time from Sable Ranch. They already don't have a lot of money for the budget and they just couldn't risk the practical effects going wrong and having to redo everything and set it all back up. So I get it. I understand it. But man, dude, imagine if this movie would have just been like his original idea of practical effects only available in the 70s. Yes,
Yeah,
let's do that.
that would have been really cool, but I would have taken even modern practical effects over
Same,
CGI.
same.
You know, I wanna give him a pass with the money and the time thing, but we have seen and covered time and time again way, way lower budget films with way better practical effects. Terrifier definitely comes to mind. They may not have had the same time crunch, but the amount of practical effects done in the original Terrifier and their budget was what, $35,000, I think it
Well,
was.
it's
So
the time that
I
they didn't really have.
yeah, you can make the argument of time, but there's also certain things that have been done enough times where you can hire somebody who is good enough with practical effects to come in and do things that have been done so many times that they're not gonna go wrong. The things that aren't as risky, like peeling somebody's face off or something that you might have to shoot 30 times to get it to look right. For example, like a bullet to the neck. That is something that a experienced person in practical effects have probably done something similar enough times where they know that they're gonna hit it on the first try.
So, once filming and post production was finished up, the film was sent to the dreaded MPAA, where it, of course, had a bunch of issues. And it had to be cut 7 different times in order to receive an R rating. And according to Rob Zombie himself, the board has had issues with the film's overall tone, specifically the motel scene between Priscilla Barnes and Bill Moseley, which was eventually cut by 2 whole minutes. But thankfully, this was all restored for the director's cut DVD and Blu-ray. The Devil's Rejects was released by Lionsgate on July 22nd of 2005 in 1,757 theaters and grossed 7.1 million on its opening weekend, making back its tiny budget in just 2 days. Unfortunately, though, the movie did not do super great during its theatrical run, bringing in only $20 million worldwide. So I was pretty confused why this movie didn't do that great in theaters, especially considering how many people love it. So I looked up what other horror movies it was against in the summer of 2005, and the results paint a clearer picture, I think. So it was up against War of the Worlds, The Skeleton Key, Romero's Land of the Dead remake, The Descent, which is a fucking damn good movie. Like that movie freaks me out. But yeah, man, like War of the Worlds, that was a fucking massive hit and it came out just like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks before this.
Yeah, I remember there being a lot of buzz for that movie, but I remember being very disappointed in that movie because that was a movie, or that was a story I actually had read the book as a kid and got really into it, and I do remember being very disappointed by the movie. Romero's Land of the Dead, which wasn't a remake. That was actually his continuation
Oh,
of
was
his.
it? I
Yeah,
for some reason, I thought it was a remake
yeah.
considering it's 2005.
Here's why. At the same time, in 2005, the remake of Dawn of the Dead actually came out
Oh,
the same year that
yeah.
Romero did Land of the Dead, which was the third in his entry of. You had the Dawn of the Dead, and then, well, I guess it was the fourth because you had Dawn of the Dead, or Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead,
Day of the Dead's what I'm thinking of, yeah.
and then there was Land of the Dead, and it's very interesting because his movie Dawn of the Dead was being remade and came out the same year that he did the fourth installment, Land of the Dead. Day of the Dead.
So you remember Day of the Dead got fucked over when Russo released Return of the Dead, remember?
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it crushed Romero. But we talked about it on the episode, and they still remained friends. And Russo didn't even mean for that to happen. Like he didn't even have any say in that.
What was that? Yeah, I guess it what was it that, or was it when they did the remake of Night of the Living Dead?
No. So
That would have
night,
been because that was 90s.
1984 is when
Oh,
Return came out.
okay, yeah. Yeah, so I was gonna say, damn, he got fucked over on multiple people remaking his movies. Yeah, that's Return of the Living Dead is not a remake, but it's kind of a different direction. They kinda split
Yeah.
and took the original story in two different directions, but yeah,
Not to
that
mention,
sucks.
dude, the Descent, man, like that was I want to say that was like an award-winning horror movie. And that was
Yeah.
that brought in a lot of money. It was also an all-female cast, and it was like really good. Like that's a really fucking creepy movie.
Yeah, you gotta think too, like, as much as I love Romero, Land of the Dead was great, but Dawn of the Dead, the remake, was a much
Yeah.
better movie.
Yeah, definitely.
So we know that came out that year too. May not have been in the summer, but yeah, The Descent, great movie. Skeleton Key, not a huge fan of that, but that is
Good twist.
bigger movie that
Yeah.
came out very 2005. Yeah, I could definitely see it having some tough competition. Also, the MPAA, I think, had a big part in that too. You think about like scenes like the 2-minute scene in the hotel. That scene, although super uncomfortable, adds a lot of depth to Otis's character. It changes the it's a part of the movie that you feel super uncomfortable, and, we actually have some insight on that scene we'll get to later on, but when you have scenes like that being cut back, the theatrical version, I could see not getting a lot of referral views, which is people going and telling their friends, and their friends going and seeing it.
So anyway, the film received mixed reviews from critics with an average rating of 5.8 out of 10, with the general consensus being that the film was nasty, relentless, and sadistic. Audience members polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of a B-. And this next part is gonna be a massive shock. Critic Robert Ebert enjoyed the film and gave it 3 out of 4 stars. He wrote, quote, "There is actually some good writing and acting going on here if you can step back from the violent material enough to see it." Later on, he had this to say: "I received some appalled feedback when I praised Rob Zombie's The Devil's Rejects, but I admired two things about it. One, it desired to entertain and not merely to sicken. And two, its depraved killers were individuals with personalities, histories, and motives." Horror author Stephen King rated The Devil's Rejects the 9th best film of 2005 and wrote, "No redeeming social merit, perfect 70s C-grade picture, cheesy glow. This must be what Quentin Tarantino meant when he did those silly Kill Bill pictures."
That's funny.
And speaking of Tarantino, in 2025, he selected The Devil's Rejects for his list of the top 20 best films of the 21st century.
Damn.
Yeah.
Do you know where he put it?
No,
Oh,
I don't.
I don't know if it was a list or if it was just,
I think
he
it's
named
just
20 movies.
these are the I don't know if they're in, like, an
Man,
order.
but I feel like, and I may be wrong, but I feel like I remember Roger Ebert shitting on The House of a Thousand
He
Corpses.
shits on 99% of every horror movie he rates.
Like, I feel like I remembered specifically in our episode talking about that,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm getting that mixed up with, like, 20 other movies where he's
Probably.
just absolutely shit on it, but maybe he went into it with such low expectations from having to watch House of a Thousand Corpses, which he clearly hated, and he was if you did hate that movie and you're not a fan of horror movies, and then you know that this is a continuation of that story, you would be pretty refreshed considering this is a lot more structurally a much more realistic, grounded movie.
Yeah, I personally think what probably won him over was the style.
Yeah,
Yeah, I could see because
cinematography.
yeah, the
Yeah,
cinematography, the acting, all the characters most of the characters are exaggerated, but that fits perfectly with that style. That
yeah.
70s road trip action horror style. All fits together really well, and it looks the part too. So, in January of 2018, it was rumored that a sequel, Three from Hell, was in production, with Zombie confirming this via his Instagram page just 3 months later by posting a photo from the director's seat. A teaser trailer for the film was released on June 2019, with it opening on September 16th of 2019. So, one interesting thing about this that I didn't come across in my research was around 2015 or 16, I was trying out Twitter, which I didn't like, but that's not the point. And I had Rob Zombie on there. And one day, you might remember this because I ran in there and I told you about it. But he posted the mugshot photos of Spalding, Otis, and Baby, and he asked if fans were interested in seeing another film with these characters.
I do.
Which, of course, like I commented or whatever. But a week or so after that, he made another post explaining that he had been trying to get the studio to greenlight another Firefly film. But Lionsgate said that there wasn't enough fan interest because, remember, it had been like 10 years at this point since Rejects came out, which is why he made that first post. And he was basically asking the fans to help push for it. That way he could get it greenlit, which it still took years of him fighting to get Three from Hell made. And the reason I bring this up is because if they would have done the film when he first brought it to them, then we would have gotten a more healthy version of Sid Haig, and Captain Spaulding would have actually been in this fucking movie. So fuck you, Lionsgate executives. It makes me mad because I was like directly helping push for that movie. And I remember how frustrated Rob Zombie got because they wouldn't greenlight it. But also, they wouldn't let him take it anywhere else to get it made. And because of that decision, we didn't get these three together in Three from Hell.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a absolute shame. It's really the saddest thing about this whole fucking, trilogy is that they didn't get I know he rewrote that movie over and
Yeah.
over again,
Mm-hmm.
and as Sid Haig's health just declined and declined and declined, and, the fact that they weren't able to get that going is super sad. I almost wish that they would have just wrote him off as, like, died in prison or died in the
Yeah,
shootout,
yeah.
as opposed to trying to replace his character with another third, which the guy who
Yeah,
replaced
Richard Brake.
yeah, that guy's great. Yeah, he's
I liked him.
fantastic. He is, like, the only good thing in 31. He is really good, but I don't think replacing Sid as a third so you could have the Three from Hell makes sense. I wish they would have done away with that and just killed Sid's character off, and in the firefight, it would have made a lot more sense than all three of them happened to have died. But yeah, man, the potential that was there for that movie to be so good, for Sid to get in the Captain Spaulding makeup one more time and do a whole movie, it is super, super sad.
Yeah. Yeah, it really sucks, man.
He didn't even live to actually see it released
Yeah.
either. We talked about that when I accidentally scared you that Bill Moseley was dead in the House of
Yeah.
a Thousand Corpses episode when I mispronounced names, but yeah, so Tiny died
Mhm.
before the Devil's Rejects came out. I believe it was Grandpa Hugo or the lady who played Mama Firefly. One of those two died before House of a Thousand Corpses came out.
Yeah, I'll talk about that here
Um,
in a bit.
and then Sid Haig died before Three from Hell came out. And they were all in these respective movies and died from the time of post-filming to the movie actually getting released. And it's almost like a fucking curse.
So the ratings, Rotten Tom, 54%. IMDb, a 6.7 out of 10. No surprise from Letterboxd at 3.4 out of 5. And the Google average audience rating is a 4.5 out of 5. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently find it streaming on HBO Max and for rent on Apple TV, Google Play, and Fandango for $3.99. Are you ready to dive into the plot?
I am as ready as I am to fuck this here chicken. I mean, we ain't gonna fuck no chickens.
Wait till after the show to fuck the chickens.
Wait, look, disclaimer, we don't fuck chickens around here. But if you were gonna fuck a chicken, you just cut its head off. You stick your dick in that hole.
You stick your dick, he said he's like, put it in its ass. And I'm like, oh God, this is just getting worse.
Yeah.
So we start out with some crime scene photos and newspaper articles about the dead cheerleaders from House of a Thousand Corpses, when we then get a black screen that says,
on May 18th, 1978, Sheriff John Quincy Whitell, along with local authorities in Brooksville County, led a search and destroy mission on a decaying farmhouse. Inside the home, police discovered a collection of diaries and scrapbooks detailing the accounts of more than 75 murders. The family responsible for these brutal crimes was forever known as the Devil's Rejects.
I do find it a bit hilarious that the Firefly family is into scrapbooking.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
find all these
it's
scrapbooking books.
Mama Firefly. Yeah, they definitely went very Texas Chainsaw Massacre with that intro. I also do love how we get Tiny dragging the body. And the very first scene is a very up close of this very beautiful girl's naked body. And then as it pans out, then you see she's dead and she's being dragged. And then the very last shot of the opening scene is of Tiny's deformed face. And it's very from beauty to beast is I think a great way to open the movie.
So we then catch up with the Firefly family about 7 months after the events of the first film, where we see Tiny dragging a naked dead girl through the woods when he suddenly notices a line of police vehicles heading towards the family's home. The cops then surround the home using their cars for cover and announce their presence. And this is where we meet our main antagonist of the film, Sheriff Whitell, who is the brother of the previous sheriff, George Whitell, who we saw murdered by Mother Firefly in the first film. And needless to say, he is out for revenge. And he then tells his deputy that what they are doing here today is called a cleansing of the wicked. As Whitell begins to speak through a megaphone, the members of the family jump up in surprise and prepare for a standoff, as we then see Mama, Rufus, Baby, and Otis grab guns and don thick metal armor. telling us that the Fireflies aren't going down without a fight. So obviously, we are missing a family member here, the deranged, sick, and twisted grandpa. And that is because, unfortunately, the actor who played him, Dennis Fimple, passed away from a car accident in 2002, which was before House of a Thousand Corpses even released. Another thing you might notice here is Mama Firefly looks a little different, and that is because she is played by a different actress named Leslie Easterbrook, who took on the role after Karen Black asked for more money for the sequel, but unfortunately Rob Zombie was already maxing out the budget at this point and just couldn't make it work. Apparently there was no bad blood remaining between them, it just she needed more money and he didn't have it.
Yeah, they obviously didn't have the budget money for her fucked up teeth mouthpiece either, because that is the thing
Yeah,
that bothers me
agree.
about this character the most.
Totally
is
agree.
Mama Firefly's pristine horse teeth. It's just too different from the
Yeah.
like, that's what stood out about her character in the original was the fucked up ass teeth, and then she completely has, like, a perfect pair of
Yeah.
dentures
Yep.
in this movie.
So anyway, the police have surrounded the place and the Fireflies are freaking out as they prepare for a good old-fashioned shootout. And after a few minutes with no signs of surrender, Sheriff Whitell gives the order to rain fire down upon the old rickety farmhouse. Now, I gotta say, there are two things I really like about this movie. One is the 1970s like action, horror style zombie pulls off here, which is very different from the first film, but I think he did such a fantastic job blending these two styles together, creating a very unique film for the early 2000s, which we've talked about, kind of a shitty time in horror.
Yeah, especially cinematography-wise, like, horror was so just clean at this time. Like, I know we've talked about it before, but that mid-2000s, very clean. You can put on a movie that you've never seen from that time period, and you can generally, within 10 minutes at most, you can tell it's from around that time period. They didn't really get unique with their cinematography and the way they shot movies and playing around with different types of film and things like that. Like, everything was very digital and clean and Blumhouse. And for this movie to come out at this time was a very refreshing.
So the second thing is the addition of Sheriff Wydell, who is played by William Forsythe. I personally think he had one of the best performances of this film. I love the character. He is such an over exaggerated, unrealistic, badass macho man, which goes perfectly with that 70s action style that makes this movie so good.
Yeah, he is 100% overwritten, but it works for the style he was going for, like you said. And that is a whole side plot of this movie is his psychological downfall of coming to terms with the death of his brother and him essentially losing it to the point where he no longer cares about upholding the law or anything like that. And him turning into the monsters that he's going after and trying to stop.
Well, I think it works so well in this movie because the bad guys are so overwritten, and now basically the law enforcement is overwritten. It's like the good versus the bad, and they're both overwritten. We did see in House of a Thousand Corpses that the cops were not overwritten. They were not these big, bold personalities. They were essentially wiped out pretty quickly because the focus was on how crazy this family was. But in a movie like this, where what is going to cause this crazy, overwritten, just fucking nuts family to go running scared? Somebody on the other side that's just as fucking overwritten, big, and crazy.
Yeah, it creates a very, very, very interesting dynamic too, that House of a Thousand Corpses was such a cult, like, it had already reached cult status by this point,
Oh, yeah.
just 2 years later. It was well, I should say 5, 6 years later after filming, but I think it was 2 years after it came out, but, yeah, people loved this family as this horror family, so you get this sadistic 3 members of the family that live and go on the run, and people are such big fans of them, and then you get this cop who is we watch his psychological downfall into turning into this monster where you as the viewer are rooting for the awful, terrible people, and this sadistic cop by the end is the bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, it's
definitely.
really weird. That last scene of the movie when he is got them in the house, he is the bad guy of this movie.
Yep. So anyway, there is a bunch of shooting when Wydell orders tear gas thrown through the windows, which kind of puts the shootout on pause and allows them to breach the home. But once they are inside, the Fireflies spring their trap with Rufus, who is wearing a full metal suit of armor, steps out and kills a few of the officers. The cops immediately light him up, quickly killing him, sending Baby and Otis retreating towards the back of the house, while a shocked mama runs over to the body of her dead son. She is then approached by a shotgun-wielding Wydell, where we then cut to Otis dragging a distraught Baby down into the basement, where they ditch their rifles and armor and escape into a tunnel that leads to the edge of the property. While this is going on, Wydell attempts to arrest Mama, but she quickly grabs her revolver and puts it to her head, informing him that he is not taking her alive. But after she pulls the trigger, the gun goes click, revealing it's out of bullets, where she is then promptly arrested. The song Midnight Riders by the Allman Brothers begins to play as the film's title card and intro appears on the screen, letting us know that we are now officially starting our violent, profanity-filled adventure with The Devil's Rejects. By the way, love the fucking title card. It's simple, it's quick, it fits that Grindhouse style.
Yeah, I loved Rufus's homemade body armor, and that is one thing on those art cards. So that scene was that original script was on the back of one of the art cards, and Rob Zombie actually hand drew what he wanted the body armor for Rufus to look like. So that was one like really cool detail and insight that you would never get to see unless you picked up that steelbook. Also, Mama Firefly should have spent less time scrapbooking and probably more time counting bullets.
Yeah. So another thing too is I'm pretty sure that one of Wydell's deputies is Sherry Moon's brother. Apparently, I heard that he went to visit the set one day and Rob asked him if he wanted to play a small role, which of course he did. I just don't know like which one. I heard that he's here at this shootout scene. I have no idea which one he is though.
I also too, I know you mentioned the music or the song playing in the
Yeah.
title card.
Great
The
soundtrack.
fucking soundtrack to this movie is amazing.
Yep.
I'm normally one who likes more of a score-heavy movie and not as much into the 2000s when they got really into playing the actual soundtrack and music in movies. But man, the soundtrack does such a great job taking you back to this time.
Yep. I agree. It's an amazing soundtrack for the movie and it fits perfectly with everything else. This movie's all style, man. So as the credits continue to play, we see Otis and Baby escape the violent siege where they manage to trick an older woman on her way home from work into stopping and getting out of her car, allowing Otis to sneak up behind her and brutally murder her with a hunting knife, where they then steal the car and drive off, getting as far away as possible. This woman is played by, I'm going to probably butcher her name, Mary Warnove, who was a member of Andy Warhol's Velvet Underground, and she doesn't act much, but I very, very recently seen her in Ty West, The House of the Devil, where thanks to Joe Bob Briggs, I learned a little bit about her, and I just thought it was a huge coincidence that I saw her in both these movies back to back, like one day apart. And she doesn't act very often. So after we see them escape, we cut back to the house, which is now crawling with cops and crime scene investigators. And essentially what they find is a mix between the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Ed Gein, with body parts used as decorations, heads stored in refrigerators, and dead bodies buried under the home. But the most interesting thing to Wydell is a scrapbook that contains pictures of dead girls and a local business owner named Captain Spaulding, which is a big surprise to them, with Wydell believing this to be a clue when it comes to where Otis and Baby may be heading. We then cut to Spaulding's house, where we get to see some very gross sex, mainly because of how disgusting his teeth are, as a semi-nude middle-aged woman rides him like her food stamps depends on it. I don't think that bed was built for off-road adventures. Jeez, dude, she is rattling the bolts in that bad boy.
Dude, I have always loved this scene that Captain Spaulding is dreaming about a still trashy looking prostitute, and then he wakes up to this like fat girl that he's with. But like most people dream about like a supermodel,
Yeah,
like
no,
the
I
woman
know.
of their dreams. Like his dream is a still trashy looking but better looking and not as fat prostitute.
Yeah.
Like she's even a prostitute in the dream.
Well, we don't know that because he calls her that and she does not like being called that. So I don't know. Maybe she's not. I don't know. So Spaulding makes an offensive joke to the woman, who then puts the gun in his face. But once she shoots him, he wakes up, revealing it to be a dream, as he then sits up next to his real girlfriend, who is, let's just say, a lot less attractive. She tries to initiate some sex, but Spaulding shoots her down, claiming his dick is still sore from the night before, as he gets up to head to the bathroom, giving us a perfect shot of the grossest underwear I have I've ever fucking seen.
Did I also love when she's like bad dream and he's like, 50-50.
50-50.
It was one of my favorite lines.
Dude.
Captain Spaulding is just such a great fucking character.
Those are not even tidy whities. They're like mellow yellows, dude. Like they should be thrown in a volcano.
Mellow yellows with the fucking skid marks.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So when he's watching his commercial, this was the first time I noticed that he advertised a Captain Spaulding for President t-shirt. And this made me think of two things. One, in 2026 America, he would actually have a chance at winning. And two, we should make that shirt.
Oh, I'm sure somebody's had to have made that shirt. Rob Zombie does such a good job at trashy.
Yeah.
Like, he grew up in like a trashy
Well,
house.
he's from fucking Massachusetts, so
Yeah, but he was in White Zombie, and
But he
I know at
does-
the time, like
he-
when that was started, he was dating the bass player, and I think that I seen an interview with her one time talking about like he has always been like very much how you see him in interviews, very kind of, I don't want to say narcissistic, but kind of a little bit narcissistic, very artsy, but they lived on like couches and stuff for a time. So he was obviously around like some trashiness, because he, whether it's Halloween or the Firefly house or Captain Spaulding's place, like he is so good at putting together a trashy fucking set.
Yeah, white trash mafia, man. It's weird because he pulls off Southern trashy really well.
He
And
does.
he's from Massachusetts.
Well,
He's so weird.
He's got that style too. It's like, yeah, it's like those guys from Ohio that get like the Confederate flag tattooed or something.
No, yeah.
Not saying that he is like that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it reminds me of, you get those really like northern rednecks who are really into the
Looks
South.
like Kid Rock.
And
Kid
yeah.
Rock likes to pretend like he's from the South and he's from fucking Detroit.
yeah, like Rob Zombie is like a Kid Rock mixed with a trash can.
Mixed
Like-
with a pile of Texas dirt.
He's got that, like, just, like, that southern thing going on, but just also, like, he got his leather vest and hat from, like, a vintage place 50 years ago.
So anyway, Spaulding gets a call from Baby informing him of the raid, warning him that the cops are headed his way, where he then tells her to remember their fallback plan and to meet him at the Kahaki Motel. Then this is where it is first revealed that Spaulding is actually Baby's father. Now, Rob Zombie has never officially come out and clarified how all the family members are related, but there are some clues if you look really, really close, as well as some inconsistencies. It's not perfect, much like Zombies movies in a whole. So in the first movie, we find out that Earl was at least Tiny's father, with Tiny and Baby being siblings. But here we find out that Captain Spaulding / Cutter is Baby's father. In a song Zombie wrote for House of a Thousand Corpses, he says, Earl had a baby. Baby was her name. He knew she was crazy. Tiny was the same. But I actually found something super interesting. In the original screenplay for this movie, The Devil's Rejects, there was a scene where the news talks about a very, very young girl who went missing when she was little, never to be seen or heard from again. I think it was like after her parents were murdered or they disappeared in this area. And this was put in there to imply that the Fireflies kept Baby after the killings and raised her as their own child, which would have probably taken place after Earl set Tiny on fire or, whatever he did. And he ended up looking like a fucking Ninja Turtle supervillain down in the tunnels. I'm pretty sure that's Earl.
That's the professor, and that's why he's like got the gas mask and the red skin and all that.
I don't know how the fuck he ended up looking like that. But anyway, and I think when that happened and he ended up down there, I think that's when Spaulding probably stepped in. So Baby was like probably kidnapped and was a very little girl. She doesn't even remember her original parents. But that is where this was never filmed. This is just in the screenplay. But obviously he had this. He had to cut some stuff because of the budget. But I don't think that she is biologically his daughter.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's definitely after Earl became the professor and set the place on fire, because that's clearly stated that the professor, aka Earl, is Tiny's dad, and clearly Mama Firefly and Captain Spaulding were in some type of relationship together around the time that Baby came into the family, and Otis, I assume being older, was a kid.
I don't think
I think
that Cutter is Otis's dad, obviously, by the way they...
No.
Maybe stepdad,
Seems like, it seems very much like Otis and Baby are much closer, and Tiny is the oldest with the professor, a.k.a. Earl, them two coming along after the fire, or maybe Otis being a kid. But I don't even know if Baby was in the family at that time or alive.
I thought that was really interesting, though. So, they make this plan to meet up with Spaulding, grabbing his gun and speeding off with his truck, when we then get a quick news interview with Wydell as he grabs the microphone, looks right into the camera, and delivers a message to the rejects where he says they can't run forever, and when they eventually stop, he will be there to put the wrath of the Lord up their ass. So, fun fact about the set used for Spaulding's house here, they didn't have to do any set decoration. It already looks like that. It is on Sable Ranch.
Once again, Rob Zombie walked in and was like, this is home.
This was Rob Zombie's home.
I figured it out, man. He dresses like a scarecrow.
It's true.
It's like he takes his inspiration from a scarecrow.
That is true. So, after a bit of driving, Spaulding stops to use a payphone where he calls a very old but close friend, Charlie Altamont, essentially someone he can really trust to give them a place to hide until the heat dies down. And this is where we meet a few more new characters. So, Charlie is basically a pimp who owns a bar slash whorehouse, and he is played by the wonderful Ken Foree, mostly known for the original Dawn of the Dead. Then we have his number one girl, Candy, who is played by Elizabeth Daily, a very successful voice actor, mostly known for voicing the character Tommy from the Rugrats. And finally, we have Charlie's main sidekick and essentially like his assistant, Cleavon, who is played by another horror icon, Michael Berryman, who has been in many things, but most notably Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes from 1977. He's on the fucking cover.
I don't know if you called it, so in the gas station where they call Captain Spaulding, the big advertisement billboard behind them is, I forgot what it's advertising, but it's On the Run Again.
No, I didn't catch that. Good catch. So, yeah, Spaulding calls Charlie and tells him about the cops, then informing him that he is coming down to hide out for a bit, but it quickly becomes pretty clear that Charlie has no interest in bringing any heat down to his place until his old friend reminds him that he still owes him a favor and this is not up for debate. So after that, we then jump to the Kahaki Motel, where we meet another set of new characters that have no idea what they're about to get themselves into.
Dude, the scene changeover after the Captain Spaulding's telephone booth call, the freeze frame,
Very old
moving
school.
out,
Yes.
yeah, that is a awesome cinematography nod to the old, like, 70s Grindhouse film.
Yep. So this group here is made up of 5 older adults, with 4 of them being a part of a traveling band named Banjo and Sullivan, who are currently on tour. First, we have Roy Sullivan, who is the de facto band leader and the oldest member of the group, joined by his wife Gloria, who is around the same age. The other half of the band is made up of another married couple that seem to be around 10 years or so younger, which is Adam and Wendy Banjo. And finally, we have the goofy but lovable roadie, Jimmy, who dreams of starting his career as a rodeo clown in the very near future. We quickly find out that after playing a show that night, the night before, they have decided to rest up for the night here at the Kahaki Motel, which is a decision they will soon regret. Because while getting their things out of the van, Otis and Baby pull into the parking lot where there is no sign of Spaulding yet, meaning they are going to have to kill some time before moving on.
I guess Jimmy is so bummed out that he's aspiring to be a rodeo clown, and Roy does not seem to think that his rodeo clown career is very realistic.
Is it a career, though?
Who the fuck dreams of being a rodeo clown?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that's just like a side gig on the weekend.
Roy is actually one of those, and I think it's a very good
depiction,
portrayal of a guy like him who's like this very religious, upstanding guy, but then you see deep down he's very selfish, quick to cheat on his wife. Like, dude's not very good.
So anyway, most of the group then heads inside the room, with Jimmy going to the store for snacks and Roy going to get his wife some ice. And while at the ice machine, he encounters a very attractive and much younger blonde who immediately begins aggressively flirting with him, totally turning him into a bumbling idiot with a crush. And of course, this is Baby. His reaction when she says, "I bet all the girls want to fuck you," is pretty on point and pretty funny. And I mean, honestly, man, like, I probably would have a similar reaction.
Yeah,
you don't hear that a lot, man.
This guy, though, is married, for one.
He's old as fuck.
He's literally like about to blow his load in the dirt for her.
Yeah.
And when she asks about going back to the room, he's like, "Oh no, not that room. My wife's in that room." And that's when he gets interrupted. He totally was going to sneak off to a room and fuck her behind his wife's back.
Yeah, it looked that way. So, Baby then grabs his hand, placing it on her body, where she then looks him right in the eyes and says, "Are you going to take me back to your room and play with me?" Which he responds, well, my wife's in that room. And before the conversation really continues, Otis comes up behind him with a gun as they then take him hostage and demand to go to his room. So we then cut back to the room where we see Gloria watching TV while Wendy takes a shower, and Adam bitches about fear mongering and the satanic panic when suddenly Otis and Baby burst in pointing guns, demanding everyone sit on the bed and shut the fuck up. And despite Adam's protest, Otis quickly yanks a still naked Wendy out of the shower, forcing her to join the others on the bed. And as soon as the group is all consolidated, Jimmy knocks on the door, having no idea what is going on in the room, but he is about to find out as Baby puts on her nice girl act and answers the door, inviting him inside. And now a very confused Jimmy walks in with Baby slamming the door behind him, when suddenly Otis shoots him right in the head in front of everyone, causing the group to lose their mind. This would be absolutely fucking terrifying in real life, man. Like, obviously, Otis, he knows what he's doing here, because this is a military tactic where you essentially surprise your target, going in hard and fast, which creates a massive amount of confusion, and it allows you to fully take control without much resistance. Most people will recognize this from like the beginning of the Iraq War, which was called like shock and awe. This is a tactic we learned in probably basic training or something. This is hit them hard, hit them fast, cause confusion, take over. And that is exactly what Otis is doing here.
Yeah. I mean, we see from the first movie, they have plenty of experience killing people and kidnapping girls. And he 100%, you can tell he's done this 1,000 times. Like, there's no hesitation. He knows exactly what to do. And it is this whole scene that gives me Last House on the Left vibes, because there's a certain point in that movie where you realize, holy shit, these guys are really fucked up. Like, they're really fucked up, and they don't have a conscience. And to be sitting in this room would be horrifying.
Yeah, definitely. So while that is going on, we then cut back to Spaulding, who runs out of gas in front of a small grocery store, where he then spots a woman and her young son walking towards their car. Realizing he doesn't have much time to waste, he decides to approach the woman with the intent of stealing her old-ass station wagon. As the woman places her son in the passenger seat, Spaulding walks up behind her, taps her on the shoulder, and very nicely says, "I'm going to be taking your car today because I have some top secret clown business that supersedes any plans that you might have for this here vehicle."
Yeah.
They then both burst out in laughter, with the woman obviously thinking this is some kind of joke, but Spaulding quickly drops the smile, looks at her intensely, and says, "Did I stutter, bitch?" Which completely changes the vibe of this interaction, leaving the woman frightened. She then slams the door and attempts to get in the driver's side, with Spaulding chasing after her and slamming her up against the car, forcing her to push him away and yell, "Get your fucking hands off me." This sends Spaulding into a rage, where he then punches the fuck out of this woman, sending her flying to the ground, where she immediately goes unconscious, leaving her son all alone and scared. After knocking the woman out, Spaulding jumps behind the wheel, where he suddenly looks over, spots the child, causing him to lean in real close and say, "What's the matter, kid? Don't you like clowns?" with the crying boy shaking his head no. He then turns to face the kid and tells him,
"What's the matter, kid? Don't you like clowns? Why, don't we make you laugh? Aren't we fucking funny? You best come up with an answer, because I'm going to come back here and check on you and your mama. If you ain't got a reason why you hate clowns, I'm going to kill your whole fucking family. All right, now get your fucking ass out the car. Come on. Yeah.
Fucking love Captain Spaulding. Dude, he could have had his own movie.
Sid Haig was the best.
Yep. So this scares the fuck out of this little kid, where we see him quickly open the door and take off running. And legend has it that late at night, if you're real quiet, you can still hear the sound of the little boy's shoes hitting the pavement as he runs away from this clown.
Dude,
Never stopped, man.
Sid Haig was the best. He played this fucking character so good, and that's why I say, like, 3 from Hell, trying to replace him with a 3rd character that's
It's just missing,
close
yeah.
to the family. It doesn't matter who you replaced him with.
Yeah.
Captain Spaulding was a must-have in that movie.
I think he's
And
more important than Baby.
Yeah, no matter what, that movie was going to fail without those 3. It's just like if you took a pie and cut it in 3 equal pieces, you needed all 3, and honestly, you made the comment he's more important than Baby. I would agree. Like,
Yeah.
he is very much needed in that movie.
Yeah, this movie, I mean, it's mostly I think most people go to see the movie to see Otis and Spaulding. Like, those are your 2. And then, there are people that are Baby fans, and I like Baby Firefly, but if I had to pick 2 out of the 3, it would be Otis and Spaulding for sure. So, fun fact here, the mom was, of course, played by horror icon PJ Souls, who was, of course, known for her role in John Carpenter's Halloween and Brian De Palma's Carrie, 2 movies we both love and we covered on this show. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, go listen to those. So we then jump back to the Motel of Hell, where we see the group being held hostage by Otis and Baby, when Otis then decides it's time to have a little fun as he demands Roy's wife Gloria get up and get naked in front of everyone. She, of course, tries to push back and say no, but Otis informs her that if she doesn't comply, someone in this room is gonna die. She then stands in between Roy and Otis and starts to strip down while trembling and crying, which is made worse by Baby's cat calling and Otis rubbing the gun over intimate parts of her body as Roy sits there having no idea what he should do. This is a difficult scene to sit through, at least for me. Our regular listeners know that I do not enjoy like realistic sexual torture and violence, but there is something that's like comforting about this scene that we'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, I fucking hate just scenes like this. Thank God it's not very long.
I think that this scene is very much needed, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, it really goes to show you the sadistic nature of Otis, because we see that a lot in House of a Thousand Corpses. We don't get to see it quite as much in this movie, and that's why I think this scene was so important for the people who missed it in the theatrical version.
Yeah, I like the scene. I like that it's in the movie. I don't remember if I clarified this the last time we went over this, but it's not that I don't like those scenes. It's that I don't like to write those scenes in the episode, because what a lot of people don't realize is if 15 minutes in the movie is about an hour to hour and a half of writing for me. It depends on the scene. But a scene like this, there's a lot of detail and stuff. So I essentially have to stretch this scene out for an hour, and it sucks because you're just like, fuck, I just want this to be over. But it's an important scene because it shows how fucking deranged these people are. You have to have it in there.
And it shows the diabolical nature of Otis, but also like how funny and good he is with his comedy aspect of it, even in such a serious situation. Like the dialogue from everybody in this scene is absolutely incredible. Like, Baby with the Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees, like that whole thing is super memorable. Otis, telling him the next words that come out of your mouth better be some brilliant Mark Twain shit, because it's getting chiseled on their tombstone. Like, that's fucking awesome. This whole scene is really, really, really important, and for them to cut like 2 minutes of it out, I think you lose a lot. Also, I'm surprised they cut 2 minutes from it, because it is a uncomfortable scene, but it's not nearly as, like, deranged or graphic as other things like The
Yeah, yeah.
Last House on the
I agree.
Left. Like,
I agree.
there's no actual, I don't know
Oh,
what
you
the
might as well
word.
say it because this
Yeah.
episode's fucked already, so,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't go as far as other movies go.
yeah. So Otis then places the barrel of the gun against Gloria's genitals, where he then has her slowly turn around to kiss him. And at first she hesitates until she hears and feels the gun cock, causing her to almost collapse from fear as she presses her lips against his. And while all this is going on, we see Baby in the background loving every second of this slow burn torture. After the kiss, he then holds her tight and whispers in her ear that he wants her to say, "You're my devil, and I want you to make me your filthy whore," which she does manage to do, but only barely when she then collapses to the floor sobbing. And it is at this point where Roy can't take it anymore, causing him to jump up from the bed, attempting to put a stop to this, which is exactly what Otis wants. But Roy doesn't make it far as Otis immediately points the gun at him, causing him to freeze, where Otis then pushes Gloria onto the bed, telling them that they all make him sick. Okay, so like I was saying, that was a very difficult scene for, a lot of people to sit through. It's tough. But according to Bill Moseley, it was also an extremely difficult scene to film. And when asked about it, this is what he had to say. Quote, "Yeah, the motel scene. I actually walked off set after that. After Rob yelled cut, my stomach was in knots and I went and expressed to him how I felt about the scene. And Rob told me, art is not safe and we are not making just a sequel, we are making something special. Then, of course, we had to do like 19 more takes." Priscilla Barnes was fantastic the whole way through. After I read the script, I thought I may have to carry her a little bit, but it was actually the other way around. She was incredible. After we wrapped up the scene, I went to my camper to wash up, and she had left a note saying it was one of the best experiences of her career.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how much of that is public. We got some really good insight from Bill Moseley at the horror convention in Charleston last year talking about that scene.
Yep.
And one thing that I thought was really cool about the comment he made, which is essentially Rob Zombie telling him that sometimes art is uncomfortable. Like,
Yep.
and I've mentioned that on the show many times now. Any movie that makes you feel genuine feelings, even like sickness and disgust, is doing its job. It's taking you out of that space of you're watching a movie and it's making you feel genuine emotions. And that's what a movie's job is there to do. It's like getting immersed in a book and you forget that you're reading the book and you can't stop. And I thought that that was so cool that that was his response to Bill Moseley, essentially telling him the same thing. It's not always comfortable. It's not always pretty. And I also think that this scene's super important because of the acting. Like
The acting, yes, definitely.
both of them do such an amazing job in this scene that you do forget it's a movie.
Yeah, I would give them in this scene both 10 out of 10s because it's a thing that when I watch it, I don't want to watch it because it's too good. It's too realistic. She does an amazing job. But I was really glad to know that Bill Moseley hated doing it, unlike when we talked about the rape scene in Last House on the Left. I don't know if you remember, but
Yeah, that guy was a fucking
he bragged about how he said he's like, I could have really did it right there. And that's how mentally boxed in I had her. And I just didn't like that. I just, that just rubs me the wrong way. But also the actress had a good time. It wasn't this traumatic event in her life. Also, like The Last House on the Left, I could be making it up in my head, but I also think it comes across a little differently when the director is approaching something like this as art and not just for shock value.
Yeah, I don't remember the director's feeling as far as The Last House on the
Well,
Left,
it's
which was Sean Cunningham
no,
and Wes Craven.
yeah.
I don't think that they went into it with, torture her, get her to the point of, making her life miserable. But I do remember the lead actor in that scene specifically fucked with her off the set, like stayed away from her. And when they shot that scene, he had really set it up where he made it as real as it could possibly be. And it was something that truly like fucked her up and affected her life. Like she felt like she was very violated in that scene. And I don't think that was Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham's vision. They didn't want that to happen necessarily. But yeah, this is a vast, vast difference when everybody on set understands what's happening. The person that it's happening to kind of has to carry the other person through the scene. It's a much, much different experience. And I think that's a testament to their acting, is that they all felt this way and still were able to pull it off in a way that feels so real. Whereas The Last House on the Left feels really real because
It
her
is.
reaction was
Yeah.
legitimate.
Yeah. So once he's done with Gloria, he then tells the group that him, Roy, and Adam got to go on a little field trip, but he is leaving his sister here to watch the girls. We then cut to the sheriff's department where we see Wydell head down into the basement where Mama Firefly is being kept surrounded by a chain link fence. He then introduces himself where, after hearing his last name, we see Mama make an interesting expression that he doesn't catch. They then trade some insults with each other where Wydell informs her that pretty soon her whole family is going to be dead, and if she wants any kind of mercy, she needs to cooperate and tell him where they are hiding out. Now, of course, she doesn't like the fact that he is trying to threaten her to get information, where she then grabs one of these scrapbooks intending to show him a photo. This definitely catches his attention as she then pulls out a hidden stack of pictures, saying she never got around to displaying them in the book. And as the camera switches angles, we see that it is photos of a dead, decomposing George Wydell from the first film, which is, of course, his brother. As he snatches the stack away, she then goes on to describe how she murdered him and makes the connection that they were brothers. And by the look on both his and his deputies' faces, it appears that they had no idea that this is what happened to the former sheriff, leading him to backhand the shit out of her, grab her by the neck, and slam her against the brick wall where he begins to strangle her as he describes how he plans on torturing and killing her children. And before he has the chance to choke the life out of her, he is pulled away by the other cops. So next, we catch up with Otis, Roy, and Adam as they arrive at this abandoned, mill or farm or something. I don't know. Whatever it is, it's in the middle of nowhere and it's fallen down. That's all I know. Could you tell what this was? I have fucking no
It
clue.
looked like an abandoned
Something.
farm.
So Otis then orders them out of the van and directs them to start walking as he then walks behind them, still holding the 2 men at gunpoint. And at this point, Otis seems really relaxed and far more personable than he was in the hotel room.
You know, Hoss, if I'm not mistaken, I think I can still smell your wife's pussy stink on my gun. Hope it doesn't rust the barrel. Oh, man. Now the stress of the day is really setting in on me. Would you guys happen to know how a guy like me could relieve some tension? Yeah, maybe. I think your wife, Wendy.
I think, man, that is one of the things that makes him such a likable character is he can be this cool, calm guy who just kind of rags on you and talk shit. And then out of nowhere, he turns into this ultra violent, soulless man capable of horrendous crimes. And Bill Moseley, who is such a cool dude in real life, we have talked to him, we have met him. He pulls this shit off so fucking well. And I think that's what makes Otis popular.
Yeah, he has a really, really, really good ability to pull off a great sense of humor and a very, very non-humorous character.
Yeah, and he can switch, like, especially in this movie in Three from Hell, he can switch back and forth to just, like, calm and cool, and then it's just out of nowhere. Like, he'll just be like, "I'm Willy Wonka, and this is my chocolate." Like, he just switches back and forth so good. So, while walking through this abandoned place, Otis starts fucking with the two men about their wives, obviously trying to get a rise out of them, when finally Adam speaks up and asks what they are or where they are going. Otis thinks about it for a moment and then says that it won't do no harm to go ahead and tell them, as he then informs them that they are going to dig up some guns he buried out here years ago. And after that, it's the end of the line. And at first, the two men are almost confused, with Roy asking if he means he's going to kill them, to which Otis says, yeah. They're both like, why? We did everything you said. There's no reason to kill us. Otis then stops the group, where it almost turns into a civil debate about what he plans to do, when suddenly Otis goes from 0 to 100 as he grabs Roy, points the gun in his face, and says, "Consider me Willy fucking Wonka. This is my fucking chocolate factory." But before he can finish what he is saying, Adam grabs a large branch and hits Otis in the head, immediately sending him to the ground as the gun goes flying a few feet away. Adam then attempts to beat Otis to death while Roy goes for the gun, but Otis kicks the fuck out of the man and tackles Roy before he can get control of the pistol. Once Adam gets back up, he starts choking Otis from behind, when suddenly Otis manages to stab Adam in the leg with his hunting knife, breaking free and forcing Roy's hand, which is holding the gun, to fire in Adam's direction, hitting him in the side of the neck, which immediately puts a stop to Adam's attack. Once Adam falls to the ground, struggling to keep his blood in his body, Otis pries the gun from Roy's hands, rolls him over, and begins to pistol whip him repeatedly in the face, gaining total control over the situation. It's pretty fucking sad that these two could not take out one dude, especially considering they got the jump on him.
I think this is exactly what he wanted to happen. When he is walking them back there, he's trying to start these conversations and he's fucking with them and starts like trying to get a rise out of them about their wives. He tells them that he's going to kill them. Like, if you really wanted things to go over smooth, you would surprise them with that at the very end. But he is almost bored of this situation. Like, he needs the hunt. And it took him literally telling them that, this is it. You guys are going to die. So it's fight or flight. Like, it's, you're going to have to fight for your lives. And I think that's exactly what he wanted them to do.
Well, I blame this shit on Roy. Adam fought like hell, and, despite the fact that Roy got to the gun first, but apparently he has the hand strength of a child, because Otis literally was able to force him to shoot Adam in the neck, who was on his third attack by this point, and had a giant knife jammed into his leg. And all Roy had to do was get the gun, roll over, and shoot Otis while he was dealing with Adam. It's fucking Roy's fault, man.
Yeah, Roy sucks. His character's fucking awful.
Poor Adam. That was his partner.
But I definitely think Adam gave a good fight.
Yep.
But I 100%, we see in House of 1,000 Corpses with the whole brain freeze moment, and Otis gets really bored by just regular killing. Like, that's not entertaining to him anymore. He needs something to push him to that next level.
So, a fun fact, this fight scene actually went very smooth with very few takes, thanks to the amazing work by the film's stunt coordinator, Kane Hodder, who is mostly known as being one of, if not the best, Jason Voorhees.
Ah,
Yep.
Who's that guy?
Yeah. So, once Otis takes both the men down, he stands over Roy and says,
Hoss, I want you to pray to your God. I want you to pray that he comes and saves you. I want lightning to come down and crash upon my fucking head.
Jesus.
Louder!
Bless the bunnies.
Bless the little birds. Bless
I
the
don't
world.
feel anything.
Ah, bless the springtime morning.
I feel it.
And after Roy does a little praying, Otis pulls his hair back, looks Roy right in the face, and says,
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
This is probably the most famous line in the whole movie, and it is actually an altered version of a quote spoken by Manson family member Charles Tex Watson during the infamous Tate murders. Very cool.
Didn't know that that was a altered quote, but yes, this is definitely the first time, in my opinion, that we see the real Otis, his real sadistic side come out. Despite the whole uncomfortable hotel scene, even that's not enough to push him to where he wants to be, and it took fighting these two and getting the upper hand for it to finally come out of him. And he literally looks him dead in the eyes. And you, like, Bill Moseley's ability as an actor to really make you feel it in the moment. Like, that's why I think that I don't think it's the line. I think it's the way he delivers it is what makes it the most iconic line of the movie.
Yeah, it's a perfect delivery. If I remember right, I think the original line is, I'm the devil and I'm here to do the devil's business. Or something. It's like slightly different. So once Roy is dead, Otis then walks over to Adam, sits on top of him, and begins to brutally stab him with that huge hunting knife, which we unfortunately don't really get to see. Back in the hotel room, we see Baby is still tormenting the two women when Wendy convinces Baby to let her go to the bathroom. And once in there, she attempts to escape, resulting in Gloria grabbing the gun and turning the tables on Baby. During the confrontation, Gloria hesitates shooting Baby, opting instead to hold her at gunpoint and yell to Wendy it's safe to come out. But before she can even finish her sentence, Baby quickly throws a hunting knife, stabbing Gloria right in the chest. Gloria is shocked when she looks down and sees this big-ass knife sticking out of her, causing her to lower the gun and fall to her knees. She then, for some reason, pulls the knife out and attempts to shoot Baby, who is making fun of her. But when she pulls the trigger, it is revealed that the gun is empty. Baby then takes the gun from her and gently pushes a now dying Gloria over while Wendy rushes out of the bathroom and escapes out the front door and into the parking lot. Panicked and looking for help, she ends up running to the first person she sees, which is Captain Spaulding, who has just arrived for his meetup with Baby and Otis. Spaulding attempts to calm her down and asks what's wrong, when suddenly Baby yells from behind for him to stop her, prompting him to not waste a single second headbutting the shit out of her and knocking her unconscious, where they then take her back to the room. So we then jump to a few hours later where we see Spaulding has washed off his clown makeup when suddenly Otis comes bursting through the door wearing a mask attempting to scare his sister. And after a few seconds of excitement, Wendy starts to notice something horrifying about this mask, as it appears to be the face of her husband, Adam. And considering Roy nor Adam came back with Otis, she puts two and two together and determines that they are both dead. I love this mask. It is honestly one of my favorite parts of the movie. It reminds me so much of the 2003 Texas Chainsaw, where she notices Leatherface's mask is made out of her boyfriend's face.
Yeah.
And it's so haunting when you recognize the face from the character previously in the movie. It's so much more jarring than just a dead face.
I think this was the callback to House of a Thousand Corpses when he
got the dad,
the whole dad's face and chest. This is clearly like Otis's thing. This is his victory parade.
Yeah.
Is taunting them with their human skin, what is it, skin suits, putting on flesh suits. There we go.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to the flesh suit guy, too. He was
suit
on it the
man.
first day, I think it came out.
But yeah, this is clearly his thing. Baby really blows it here. She almost fucked up and let one of them completely escape. And then we find out that there is no bullets left, so they used the last one on Rodeo Clown. Well, I guess Otis must have had a couple bullets left,
She may have
but
never had bullets
it
since the shootout.
it makes sense, though, as to why they keep them alive and don't just immediately kill them, because Otis is clearly trying to use them to go dig up these guns.
Yep. So at this point, we see Otis and Spaulding have some words, almost resulting in a fight, until Spaulding decides to let it go so they can hit the road before the cops catch up to them. Baby then asks what they should do with Wendy, with Spaulding opting to leave her for the maid to find when Otis interjects saying he has a better idea. I think this interaction between Otis and Spaulding is very interesting because, one, I think that part of their friction is because Spaulding likes to be in charge and conduct his violence in a like a smarter way, but Otis has no desire to listen to him and just wants to do everything on the fly, not thinking at all about like aftermath, and they are essentially both battling for that top spot. And then two, I get the vibe that Captain Spaulding is a little less depraved and violent compared to Otis. Like he wants to leave the girl alive so they can get out of there before the cops come. We don't ever see Spaulding doing shit like sleeping with dead bodies and wearing people's
Well,
faces. And
uh,
finally, like Spaulding has a life outside of all of this with like friends, a business, a very unattractive girlfriend, where Otis essentially never leaves the house and just kills people and then turns them into sex dolls or weird art projects.
well, I think that there is some probably father-son friction here. Obviously, Captain Spaulding and Mama Firefly split up at some point, but at some point in Otis's childhood, he was around. Like Captain Spaulding is a member of the family. I disagree. We actually do see some pictures of Captain Spaulding posing with these naked dead
Yeah, but
girls.
he's not fucking them.
So it makes me think that Captain Spaulding was maybe a lot more vicious back in the day, and Otis kind of grew up and grew into what he became from being around that, and now he's more chilled out, and Otis is kind of almost like, when somebody, like, quits smoking cigarettes and then they complain about smoking cigarettes around somebody, he's almost got that, like, you think you're better than us now thing going. There's definitely some friction going on between those two.
Well, one really interesting thing that I thought about after writing this, in Three from Hell, Baby is now more like Otis used to be, with Otis acting more cautious, smart about his crimes, and a lot less like depraved and sadistic, taking on more of that Spaulding role, even getting aggravated with Baby multiple times throughout the movie because all the shit that she's doing, making it like harder and harder for them to escape to Mexico.
Yeah, I think the same thing happened to Captain Spaulding as he got older, and I think that's some of the friction that's there.
Very interesting. I never noticed that about Three from Hell until I wrote that.
And we're Captain Spaulding, so the so-called friend that he's going to meet up with, Charlie, is actually his adopted brother. And they both have these Groucho Marx names, and obviously those two grew up together. I think they started this whole thing. They were the first two to have these nicknames. I think that whatever, like, criminal activities they were doing, they gave each other those nicknames, and then eventually Captain Spaulding got with Mama Firefly, and they must have been together for years because it created this whole, like, sick, twisted family that all had these nicknames. So I definitely think Captain Spaulding was a lot more vicious at one point.
So we then cut to the next day where we see the maid arrive at the hotel room for cleaning. And when she opens the bathroom door, she is shocked at the sight of Gloria and Jimmy's dead bodies that have been posed with a guitar in the bathtub, displaying the words "dead fuck, fuck you." and the devil's rejects all over the walls written in blood. She immediately begins screaming and freaking out, but when she turns to run, she spots another dead body hanging on the back of the door, which suddenly reaches out and grabs her, causing them both to fall on the bed. This is Wendy, who is now wearing her dead husband's face, obviously so extremely traumatized she can't think straight to ask for help, which results in this panic between her and the maid. The maid then throws her off and runs out the door, with Wendy then jumping up and running outside as well. And because of what happened last time, she stopped and asked for help. She decides to just keep going until she is far enough away from the motel. Hell here. The other important thing to note is she still has this Adam skin mask on, so she can't really see very well, which results in her running into the middle of the road, where while trying to stop a car for help, she doesn't see the semi-truck headed straight for her until it is too late, resulting in her getting blasted and quickly turned into roadkill. This scene, hands down, one of my favorite parts of this movie, and despite the fact that I've seen like 15 times, it never gets old. It never loses that like magic that draws me into it, man. I love that scene.
Yeah, the maid here who goes in and sees all these dead bodies and all this shit written, like that bathroom set was awesome. Like they fucking decorated that shit, fucking amazing. And then to turn around to run out the door and this person wearing a skin face mask is on the back of the door reaching for you.
That's terrifying.
That would be fucking horrifying.
Yep.
That'd be the scariest thing in this whole fucking movie.
I don't know if I'd ever recover fully. I would never clean fucking motel rooms again. So this, of course, causes the police to show up, where they begin investigating these murders, but unfortunately, there is no way to connect them to the Firefly family yet. And while at the crime scene, Wydell meets with two local thugs he has hired off the books to find a list of Firefly family associates that may be hiding the three fugitives. These two thugs are named Snapper and Rondo, who were played by Diamond Dallas Page and Danny Trejo. We then get a road trip scene where Otis bitches about Spaulding's plan, informing them that he doesn't trust Charlie because he has a bad feeling about him. But Spaulding and Baby shoot his concerns down when suddenly Baby demands they stop for some ice cream, which is, of course, the famous Tutti fucking Fruity scene that people just love. People love that scene. I think it's okay, but it's not amazing to me.
I think the scene is kind of a lot more important than what it looks like on the surface. It shows that Captain Spaulding still calls the shots.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Between the three of them, he still is the head of the family. He still calls the fucking shots, even though he doesn't live in the house with them.
Yeah, and it does show, like, with the family dynamic, Otis does have a soft spot, at least for his sister.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, we then get a scene where Sheriff Wydell decides to go check out the Firefly home again for any possible clues on where they might be hiding, but instead he finds the ghost of his brother George in the basement, who informs him that he is now stuck in the house forever. This news crushes him as George then begins to try and convince him to turn bad and hunt the rejects down, murdering them in cold blood. But Wydell pushes back, saying that he's trying to do the right thing and arrest them if possible so they can pay for their crimes. But this greatly angers George, who pokes fun at him before screaming in his face that he wants them dead for what they did to him. And before Wydell can respond, the phone rings, revealing it to just be a dream. Once Wydell wakes up, he answers the phone, where he hears Rondo on the other end informing him they have tracked down Spaulding's old partner in crime and needs to know if he wants to give them the green light on taking care of the rejects the outlaw way. Wydell, who is still shaken from the dream, pauses for a moment and then gives Rondo his approval. So basically what we see here is Wydell tried to do it by the book, but after failing to catch the rejects and the realistic dream of his brother, he has decided to become the judge, jury, and executioner. After this change of heart, Wydell goes to visit Mama, making sure to send the guard home for the night, leaving just him and his brother's murderer all alone in this dark, cold basement. I think Leslie Easterbrook did a good job playing the character, but yeah, the fucking teeth, they just look too good.
Yeah, the teeth look too good, and I gotta say, her death scene is the worst, one of the worst death scenes I've ever seen
It's
somebody act.
it's
Her
it's
acting is
very over the top.
her acting is atrocious in this. I'm sorry. I hate to say it. I try not to down anybody too hard on the show, but when she gets gutted, it is like I feel like I'm watching like a play.
So once they're alone, she quickly begins flirting with him, basically trying to get him to fuck her right there in the jail. And he totally plays along, even to the point where he pins her against the wall and talks dirty to her. But right as he is close enough to kiss her, he quickly stabs her in the gut with a big ass knife, causing her eyes to bulge in pain. And just to make it even worse, he begins to twist it and move it around, causing her to bleed out even faster. And right as she is on the verge of death, he kisses her cheek, pulling the knife out and stepping away, where she then falls to the ground and dies. And that is the end of Mama Firefly. She just got Epsteined.
She did.
She just got fucking Epsteined. So after that, we then cut to Charlie's place, which, by the way, I fucking love the sign. It says, 1,000 served, clean pussy, VD tested, come again. You know, like, business must be good because I am positive he hired a marketing agency to come up with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was very satisfied with the results.
Yeah. Yeah. I also doubt that these women are being tested.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he runs a very
Strict.
strict policies.
Yeah. It's probably the same company who came up with the Red Hot Pussy Liquors for the liquor store. This is a good name. So this place is called Charlie's Frontier Funtown, and it's basically set up like a tiny, broke-ass Vegas with a bunch of neon lights and shit. I hope that when they were decorating this place, they didn't strip any screws or bust any nuts. So we then see the rejects arrive at Charlie's, where they at first don't get the warm welcome they expected, as Charlie and his two main girls, Candy and Casey, step out, with Charlie holding a shotgun, announcing he has always said if he ever sees that no good motherfucking brother of his again, he would be a dead no good motherfucking brother of his, which stuns Spaulding and the other two. He then points the gun at the rejects, telling them to put their hands up, which immediately causes Otis to get pissed at Spaulding, which I was like, dude, you have no fucking room to talk. Like, you've killed so many people on a whim. Like, you're literally, you were named the Devil's Rejects by the news yesterday. Like, dude, come on. So it is soon revealed that the shotgun is just a modified water gun, and Charlie and Spaulding like to play this trick on people for fun, causing Baby and Otis to breathe a sigh of relief. After the tension dies down and everyone gets reacquainted, we then get a quick party montage where we see Charlie, Spaulding, Otis, Baby, and the two girls listening to some jams, drinking, and doing some cocaine.
So Charlie his nickname is Wolf J Flywheel, which is how they are able to make the connection here. I thought it was hilarious that the police had a movie critic on call, and the movie critic that shows up is very much Rob Zombie. It's his view on movie critics. Like, this is how obviously critics hate his movie.
Yeah.
I think he very much made this character as like a diss back at movie critics.
That's a good point, because
the
critic's kind of out of place in the movie a little bit.
And he's very snobby, and I paused the list. So he gives this list, and I thought that this was really interesting. So obviously, Captain Spaulding, Charlie, who is Wolf J Flywheel, Rufus is on there. So Rufus Firefly, Otis Driftwood, Grandpa Hugo, they're all obvious on there. But I also noticed the professor, which is Tiny's dad, Yeah, that's just like the scariest killer from House of a Thousand Corpses. Another one of them is Ravelli. And Ravelli was looking back at House of a Thousand Corpses is the guy who works with Captain Spaulding, the guy who smashes the robber's head in.
Oh, his buddy.
Yeah, he works the murder ride. So he's
Yeah.
obviously in on the crew of the family. So he is one who kills people that's in on this whole thing that
Oh,
gets away.
that was a damn good catch.
Yep, we never hear about that. Also, Baby Firefly's real name in the film is Vera Ellen, and that is the name of the actual real-life actress who played the female lead in the Marx Brothers' final film, Love Happy, in 1949. Also, if you remember back at the beginning of the murder ride of House of a Thousand Corpses, when they're talking about Dr. Satan and how he became Dr. Satan, he is Dr. S. Quentin Quayle, which is also one of the names on the list.
Wow.
Yep.
That is a really, really good catch.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of connections there
Yeah.
with the names. I actually paused it and took a picture of the list of names. Yeah, I
So it's
thought
like all the characters that are in on The Killing, like even
Yeah.
some that you don't even realize are in on The Killing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Ravelli is one who's literally that's in on the killing that we see him kill somebody in the beginning of House of a Thousand Corpses, one of those robbers, but we never hear from him again.
Yeah.
Thought that was very interesting, the connections. Also thought, the whole movie critic thing was hilarious. So I actually looked and seen Roger Ebert because I remembered he had an awful thing to say about House of a Thousand Corpses. He's the first guy I thought about when Rob Zombie added this super snobby movie critic character into the movie. And I was reading Robert Ebert on his website talking about The Devil's Rejects when he rated it, and he's going through the plot, and he talks about the critic, and he says, quote, "The critic is such a Groucho fan that he knows Groucho played God in Otto Preminger's Skiddo from 1968. Something I also knew, but I bet you didn't." So the whole snobby film critic thing went
Yeah.
right over Robert
Eager's
Eager's
head, yeah.
fucking head.
Yep, that's good. That was good. So we do get a quick interruption during the party scene, though, where we cut to Whitell, who is sitting alone at home, staring into the mirror, imagining himself talking shit to Captain Spaulding right before he kills him. So the reason I brought this up is because this was all improvised by William Forsythe. Rob Zombie let him play around with the character for this scene, and I personally think he killed it, man. Like, he has that look in his eyes, like, he really wants to kill this dude. Like,
Yeah.
he does a fucking good job, like, especially off the top of the head. Great job. So we then cut to the next day where we see Charlie and Cleavon stop at a roadside chicken stand to pick up some fresh poultry to cook for his guest. And after he excitedly picks out two nice-looking Rhode Island Reds, the sloppy-looking man looks at him kind of funny, pauses for a moment, and asks,
Now, y'all ain't planning on fucking these chickens, are you?
That's fucking... That's gold. It should be like my text message alert or something. And needless to say, Charlie takes great offense to this question, which leads to a tense but hilarious confrontation.
What the fuck are you getting at? Do you fuck chickens?
Well, I have thought about fucking some chickens before. If you want to have a good time and you need some pussy, you can cut that chicken's head off, stick your dick in that ass of that chicken, and that damn chicken will go crazy on your ass and go,
Are you saying that I would cut off a chicken's head, put my dick in it, fuck it, and go, ah? You accuse me of fucking a chicken, motherfucker?
No, I ain't calling you chicken fucker, but boy over there looks sexually frustrated, and I don't approve of chicken.
Oh my God, this is one of the best scenes ever put on film in the history of filmmaking.
I love how the other dude's so pissed too. Whenever he's like, "Well, I'm not calling you a chicken fucker,
yeah.
but your friend over there looks a little sexually frustrated."
Mm.
I don't know that guy's name, but he is. The Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
He's been in a ton of horror.
Yeah.
But,
Oh
but I
my
love
God,
how
dude.
fucking like mad he gets.
I love how like Charlie fucking like he repeats everything and he even does the and he go, "Ah!" Like, are you accusing me of fucking a chicken? Man, like that shit is right up there with now we all thought bags were a good idea. Yeah, man, the chicken fucker scene will forever be it will live rent free in my head till the day I die. I
Yes.
fucking love if the rest of this movie was garbage, this scene would still be gold.
It
I
is.
fucking love this scene.
It is. It's such a weird, like, out of place scene too.
Yeah,
and
boss,
it's
he
just-
called me a chicken fucker. We ain't
Yeah.
never buying chicken from him again. Man, so anyway, after they drive off with the chickens, they quickly I can't stop fucking thinking about it.
They just quickly stop to
Oh.
fuck some chickens.
Oh man, dude.
Now, y'all ain't planning on fucking these chickens, are you?
What if they'd have been like, well, yeah, it's exactly what we're planning to do.
I take it this guy has some customers who frequently fuck chickens.
Yeah. So
Maybe
anyway,
that's how he sells so many chickens.
he sells
maybe
those
that's
cheaper
like a-
chickens at the bottom.
Maybe that's like his like marketing strategy.
Yeah.
Like he's got a bunch of like super gross redneck dudes who just come back and they're like, "Man, your chickens are special."
Well, maybe he's like, well, if you're gonna fuck them, don't buy these Rhode Island Reds. Like, get these shittier ones down here. So anyway, after they drive off with the chickens, they quickly get cut off and confronted by Wydell, who then threatens Charlie that if he doesn't have a distracted Spalding, Otis, and Baby at Frontier Fun Town tonight at midnight, then he is going to shoot him dead in the street. And after staring down the barrel of a large revolver while thinking it over, he finally agrees. So after that, we then jump to Frontier Fun Town only moments before the clock strikes 12, where we see Charlie has played it smart, separating the rejects without them catching on to what is about to happen. Spalding is kicked back on the couch listening to some Terry Reid while smoking a fat-ass J. Baby is enjoying a bubble bath and some beers while talking to Casey, and Otis is in the back fucking Candy. And no, she's not a dead body. Surprisingly, she's very much alive. I thought he only liked the dead ones. So we then see Casey get up and walk to the dark kitchen for another beer when suddenly Rondo appears behind her, quickly grabbing her and cutting her neck before she can alert the others. Snapper then confronts Otis by suddenly cutting off the slow jams, causing Candy to grab her gun and attempt to shoot him, but Snapper is quicker on the draw, putting a bullet right between her eyes, where she then falls dead on top of Otis.
Damn,
Probably like, I like them dead better. It's perfect.
Charlie's bottom bitch was a real one. She
Yeah.
took a bullet to the head for Otis.
Yep. So anyway, Rondo then forces Baby out of the tub at gunpoint, where we then see Otis picked up by the 6'5" tall Snapper and thrown out of the window like a fucking ragdoll. Now that the younger two are taken care of, Wydell then springs his final trap as he walks around the corner confronting a very surprised Spalding. I had no sympathy for the Devil's Rejects, but for some reason, I do have a bit of a soft spot for Spalding here. There's just like something really sad about being betrayed by like
His
your
brother.
family. Yeah.
Well, that's why I said I think these two were the first to come up with the Groucho brothers nicknames, because they're adopted brothers. Like they obviously knew each other way before the family existed. So to go that far back with somebody and to be adopted family, that really has to hurt. This is the one person he called on that he could trust in the world. And he just got thrown under the bus.
Yeah, you see too, like how excited he gets when he thinks Charlie comes back from taking a piss, only to discover it's a cop. Yeah, that's a bummer. So once Spaulding realizes what's going on here, he immediately starts talking shit when suddenly a cool, calm, and collected Wydell pulls out his pistol and shoots him in the leg, where he is then dragged outside and reunited with Otis and Baby as they are all thrown into a truck and driven back to their farmhouse. Once they arrived, which I assume Snapper and Rondo helped them, like, get them, like, tied to the chairs before they left, because there's no way Wydell did this by himself.
No. Yeah, definitely not. And
Yeah.
Snapper, that is a old wrestler. That dude is big as fuck.
Yeah.
Like he's like
6'5". I looked it up.
Yeah, he's fucking he looks bigger than that. He looks like he's about pushing 7 foot. Like,
Very
he's
nice
massive.
guy. Apparently, he's very, very nice guy.
Yeah, I do want to say leading up to this scene, like the music, I don't remember what song they're playing, and it shows them all partying on their last night of freedom. I just the cinematography, the music, the fucking shots, all that is such a great part of the end of this movie, leading into the climax.
So Wydell ties them each to a wooden chair in the living room, where he then begins to explain that he comes from a long line of vigilantes who for generations hunted down evil people and served them up without the red tape of the law, even serving with the famous Tom Horn and calling themselves Devil Slayers. Interesting fact here, Tom Horn was an 1800s American cowboy, scout, soldier, range detective, hitman, rodeo performer, and eventually a Pinkerton detective who has since become a larger-than-life figure of Western folklore. Honestly, if you get a chance, look into this dude's life. It is fucking wild. He was eventually convicted of murdering a 14-year-old boy whose father was in a land dispute with his neighbor, who had hired hitman Tom Horn to deal with his neighbor, and this led to him, he ended up shooting the kid. But he got hanged one day before his 42nd birthday in 1903.
Damn,
Dude's got a wild life, dude.
He did all that in 40 years.
He wrote his autobiography while waiting to be hung.
Damn.
So anyway, yeah, he comes from this line of vigilantes, and he explains that he tried to deliver justice the right way, which is why he became a cop. But thanks to the Devil's Rejects, he finally realized that people this evil can only be caught and punished by someone willing to cross the line that most wouldn't dare, unlike his brother George. He then starts showing them photos of their victims, violently stapling the picture of the dead cheerleader to a screaming Otis's chest. It's kind of weird when he shows the picture of the dead girl, like, before she's dead, because he's like, she's so pretty, anybody would fuck her. Look at her now. It's like, that's a weird thing to say about a dead teenager.
Yeah, Otis is like, she's still.
He's like, I'll still
fuckable.
smash. So anyway, this goes on for a while, where he kind of tortures them by shooting their bodies with this big ass staple gun, smashing a bottle in Otis's face, electrocuting them with a cattle prod, and nailing 2 long ass nails through Otis's hands into the chair. But despite all that, the thing that hurts the worst is when he pulls out the last photo and shows it to them, informing them that he killed Mama by jamming a large knife into her gut until she bled to death. We then cut to a few hours later, where he decides it's time to wrap it up, and for some fucking reason, he cuts Baby free and lets her run away, while he drenches the other 2 in gas and sets the house on fire.
This is a really interesting parallel / reflection of the first movie, House of a Thousand Corpses, but now it is Baby Firefly being the hunted.
Yep.
He even makes the comment, I smell rabbit.
Run, rabbit, run.
Yep.
So once he tosses the lighter onto the gas-soaked floor, he chases after Baby, where we get a cool little callback to the last film, which is, what you just said. Wydell grabs an axe and goes looking around on the farm, as we then see a scared Baby run into Charlie, who has come back to save them. A little too late, bro. Charlie ends up getting hacked to death by Wydell after taking Baby to his car to escape, where she then attempts to run again, but quickly gets caught by the axe-wielding sheriff after he shoots her in the leg. Once he catches up to her, he begins to strangle her to death, But right before she runs out of air, a large figure appears behind Wydell, picking him up by his head and snapping his neck, killing him instantly. As the large man drops Wydell's body, it is revealed to be Tiny, who then goes into the house and saves Spaulding and Otis right before they burn to death, giving us a fucked up but loving family reunion with the last remaining members of the Firefly clan. After they catch their breath for a bit, Otis grabs Charlie's car with a very injured baby and Spaulding piling in the back, as they then say their goodbyes to their brother Tiny as the family's home goes up in a blaze in the background. I don't understand why Otis tells them they'll come back for him.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Um,
Obviously not.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they knew Tiny was going to walk up in this house and get blown the fuck up. I'm not sure why
No.
Tiny does that, but I love when Tiny returns because you forget
Yes.
that he wasn't in the house.
Yes.
He is in the very first scene of the movie, and that is it. Like, you
Yep.
forget about his existence completely, and you think she's totally fucked, and one of either Otis or Captain Spaulding's gonna bust out of the chair and save her, and it's Tiny who
Yep.
ends up showing up. And man, I love the character of Tiny. He really reminds me of Leatherface in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is the giant deformed member of this sadistic family, and he just pretty much does what he's told. And in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like, Leatherface is even like freaking out, like, where's all these kids keep coming from?
Yeah.
Like, he's very much like he just this really fucked up family he was born into just raises him into killing, and he's Tiny is kind of like that.
Well, they're both huge, and if they were, evil, big bad people, they could really inflict a lot more damage. But because they're these giants and super strong or whatever, but they almost have child minds, it paints them differently. So anyway, as they drive off, we see Tiny casually walk into the front door of the home, or, whatever's left of it, where soon after walking directly into the flames, the house explodes, killing him. He went out like a legend.
So we think killing him.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, this
Yeah.
was Matthew McGorry's final film role, as he passed away just weeks after the release of this movie. Rest in peace, Tiny. Honestly, to me, you were the scariest of all the Fireflies, but like in the best way.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the House of 1,000 Corpses when he's trying to feed her cereal.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just unties her and lets
Yeah.
her go, and he's like, huh.
Yeah.
He's wearing like a Christmas
Yeah.
sweater or something on Halloween.
I think it's got like a big pumpkin or something on it, but yeah.
Yeah, he passed away, I know, of health concerns. I want to say he had like a heart attack or something, but I do wonder if his health was deteriorating when they shot this, and that was why Rob Zombie chose to send his character away
Yeah.
to the house.
So
because-
yeah, and then another thing too is he actually injured his ankle pretty much immediately into filming, and he would heal very slow. So that somebody else plays Tiny in all the scenes except for the ones where you see him without a mask on. Yeah. So we then get an overhead shot of a lonely road surrounded by hot, dry mountains as the first few notes of one of the best songs ever written begins to play. And about halfway through the intro, we catch up to Charlie's dark blue convertible, where we spot the badly beaten, bloody, and exhausted Devil's Rejects trying to get as far away from the events of last night as possible. And just as the lead guitar in the beginning of Freebird starts to cut in, we are shown short clips of the Rejects during happier times, enjoying each other's company on a nice day while being filmed by a handheld camera. Fun fact, this footage wasn't originally shot for the movie. This was actually behind the scenes stuff on the very last day of shooting that Rob Zombie shot on his personal camera while hanging out with Bill Moseley, Sid Haig, and of course, his wife Sherry Moon at Sable Ranch. So anyway, we then get a shot from the front of the car looking directly at Otis through the windshield, where we notice that he has suddenly stopped for some unknown reason. Then the camera, in one fluid motion, which I love, continues its focus on the gang in the car as it slowly moves over them. And this is where it is revealed why Otis is parked in the middle of the road, as the camera then changes to show us what he sees in the distance. We see it is a roadblock of law enforcement vehicles with about 10 guns pointed directly at them. This is my favorite cinematography shot in the film, this like close-up of Bill Moseley looking at this roadblock. You see a lot of emotion in his eyes and his face, and it reminds me of an art exhibit I came across years ago with this photographer that took these close-up photos of these young soldiers before they deployed to the Middle East. And then like, it was like a before and after, right? And it was crazy to see how much their eyes and their face had changed in 1 year. And that is what this shot like reminds me of. And once again, Bill Moseley, amazing job. Great job.
Yeah, I love this end of the line final climax of the movie. The Freebird plan, perfect song choice. But them realizing it's over and that bonding moment as they all pass guns around for the final time, I thought it was a fucking great ending for their story. And considering Sid Haig was he was about to pass away by the time Three from Hell happened, I almost wish Three from Hell didn't happen because this was such a good ending for these characters.
So with this revelation, Otis realizes it is all over and it is time for their last stand. As we then see him wake the others up, get their guns ready, and end this thing once and for all. Otis then puts the car in gear and stomps on the gas full speed ahead, timed perfectly with the fast-paced, tempo-changing solo Freebird is known for. As the car flies towards certain death, the rejects and cops all begin shooting at each other at once, where we see Spaulding, Otis, and Baby get hit repeatedly with hot lead, spraying blood and glass all over the interior of the convertible until suddenly the picture freezes on Spaulding's face as he screams in pain, immediately followed by a quick succession of gunshots as the screen fades to black. And that is the end of The Devil's Rejects. I fucking love this ending. Honestly, I think they should have left it there. It was perfect minus the CGI gunshots, but other than that, it was perfect ending.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great ending. I even loved the post-credit scene. For some reason, they felt right. Like, these three were immortal and were forever traveling this highway. It's like going through the highway that they were driving through right when they met their demise. And it's just a really remember what song plays after Freebird when they go into the credit scene, but it's real slow and somber, and it's like this helicopter shot following the highway that they took on their last bit of being on the run, and it's almost as if they are going to like forever immortally be traveling this road.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like Three from Hell, I haven't seen it in a while. You know, I got some good and bad opinions about it, but honestly, I think this probably should have ended here. I have some facts, but we're already pretty long overdue for the ending of this show. So I only got one that I really want to read. The Family Media Guide claims the word fuck and its variations are used 224 times. However, other sources list the count at 560, and at the time, this was the record.
Nice.
It was broken this same year by a movie called Fuck, but yeah, I've never heard of that one, so.
Well, fuck that movie.
Yeah. All right, so rating and kill count. We have a total of 17 kills. I didn't count the dead bodies at the beginning because they're already dead and we don't really get to see it. So kills 1 through 4 were cops who were shot by the Firefly family. 5 is RJ. He was shot by the cops. Abby, the waitress, was stabbed by Otis in the back, which is like one of the few practical effects, and it took forever to fucking get it right. Jimmy was shot in the head by Otis. Roy was beat to death by Otis. Adam was shot in the neck and stabbed by Otis. Gloria was stabbed in the chest by Baby. Wendy was hit by a semi-truck. Mama was stabbed in the gut by Wydell. Casey had her throat slit by Rondo. Candy was shot in the head by Snapper. Charlie was killed with an axe by Wydell. Wydell had his neck snapped by Tiny, and Tiny dies in a house fire. Of course, we don't count the rejects because they survive. Favorite kill? You're up.
I would say probably Roy getting his head bashed in while Adam has to listen to every hit of his skull being caved in, mainly because of the most famous line that is said right before he gets his skull smashed in. But a very close second would be Wendy. Her running out, wearing her dead husband's face, and then getting hit by a semi. It's so unexpected. And what I really love about it is the aftermath is just brutal. Like, that is something they did use practical effects for, was all the meat and blood that they threw all over the road, and it looked fucking amazing.
Yeah, I went with Roy because of the same reasons. It is one of the, if not the most iconic kill, probably from the movie because of the line. Also, my second was Wendy. I almost went with Abby because it was like the only practical kill we really got, but we didn't get to see it that well. But I went with Wendy because I love that whole scene. It's actually my most favorite scene in the movie. All right, so rating.
So I gave this a 4.4. I really do love this movie, even though it's a complete 180 as far as feel from the first. The first being very psychedelic, it's very dark setting, very bright color palette. This is literally the difference of day and night. This is very hot, dusty setting, very dulled color palette, and much more of a realistic feel. Yeah, like I said earlier, it's very reminiscent of Ty West's X trilogy, how he was able to use the same story and pull off a completely different feeling and different type of movie. I also thought it was a really good continuation of the story. We got to learn a lot more about their history and see the more human side of the characters. Thought the acting was top notch, not only from the family members, but all of the side characters that get killed. Like, everybody's acting is really good, except Mama Firefly and her death scene. Her acting was great, just her death scene was awful. Cinematography is amazing. Thought the sets were great. Really, really loved the nods to the late 70s Grindhouse horror. Overall, man, I think it's a really good one.
Yeah. What did you give it?
A 4.4.
Yeah, dude, I gave it a 4.4. I would have gave it a 4.5 or 4.6, but the CGI kills, man. I love this movie, but for way different reasons than House of a Thousand Corpses. I dig the style, the 1970s, like horror, action, road trip. I actually seen it defined as American New Wave Western. I like that. I feel like that fits this really well. But yeah, love the style, love the cinematography. I really, really enjoyed having Captain Spaulding, Otis, and Baby together, which we don't get in either the other two films.
Yeah.
Like Spaulding's in the first film, but he's not really with the family.
Yeah, if you notice, the first film also ends in a red convertible, and it's him picking the girl up, and really Otis popping out the back, and that's the first time they're together.
Yep. The acting is really good for the most part. I commend Zombie for his casting of horror legends and these like recognizable B and C tier celebrities, I guess. It shows you he's a true fan of horror making horror movies. And no matter how good or bad his movies are, I always do have that respect as somebody who was is a horror fan making movies. I do have an issue, like a little bit of an issue with Otis being a completely different character here, but both versions of him are great in their own ways, and that is to the credit of Bill Moseley. My biggest issue, like I said, is the CGI kills, which I have tried to look past, but, it just hurts the film for me, and I'm not putting that on Rob Zombie at all, like, especially with the knowing the budget issues and all that stuff he's dealing with behind the scenes. But overall, great movie, very unique horror film, especially for the time it came out. And I think it's really impressive that Zombie and the whole cast and crew were able to make a film this good with such little money in a very short amount of time. So yeah, I love The Devil's Rejects, 4.4 from me.
Yeah, I do think that this is a really, really fantastic sequel that he took a extremely risky approach on, and it worked out. Like, to take the cult following that House of a Thousand Corpses had and to completely make a 180 turn and make a completely different film for the sequel that was very highly anticipated by the people who loved the first, and for it to work out that well, I definitely give him props on that.
Well, once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoyed the show. Check out the website and check out the socials. Tell a friend, a family member, or your favorite dusty horror director about the show. And we hope to see you next time.